Greetings from Coney Island. I'm Dick D. Ziggin, the permanently unelected mayor of Coney Island, with it, for it, never against it. Welcome to another fireside chat. Today is going to be 5 questions for Insectavora.
Hey, how's it going, everyone and everybody?
Are you ready for the first question?
Already.
Question number 1, Insectavora. When and why did you decide to tattoo your face?
Let's see. Well, I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the time of the whole face tattoos, and I was just, wow. I'm trying to think. Well, I know the when. It was like back in the 90s. I started with just little dots on my eyebrows. Then, after a little while, I went and I did the line from here to there. And then that continued further. And then in 1999, I did my face from here to there. And I don't know, why did I do it? I don't know, I guess just boredom in Minnesota. But the whole like crazy part of my face is I was in a band, Apocalypse Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Skitch, who was the drummer, he had tattooed his own face in a mirror, and it looked so good. I'm like, I want one too. So then, yeah, he tattooed my face over here as well. So yeah, that was the when, and why, I don't know.
Thank you. Are you ready for question number 2?
Ready.
Would you please tell our viewers the story of how we met?
I will. So, as I said earlier, I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm originally from New York. So I came back to New York to visit. We had just finished a tour with that band, Apocalypse Theater, and we had worked the Burning Man Festival. And I met up with old friends from New York. I'm like, oh, before I go back to Minneapolis, I'm gonna go with these guys back to New York just to visit and hang out in New York for a little bit, for a week. Well, then September 11th happened, yikes. And so I was stranded because it was martial law, lockdown, couldn't leave the city, couldn't come into the city. And everybody in Minnesota was like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, whoa, I see this crazy stuff happening. I'm like, yeah, I can't come back until, you couldn't fly out or in. So I was living in New York then for a while. Then I was gonna finally, when everything settled down, they lifted martial law, my friends in Minneapolis were gonna come get me. I'm like, oh great, everything's all set, ready to go. And I decide to go to the Roseland Tattoo Convention because it had started when I left New York, and I always wanted to go. It was this big international tattoo convention. So I went, and that's where I met Dick Ziggin and the then cast of the Coney Island Circus Sideshow. It was like Serpentina, Eek the Geek, Tyler Fire.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were planning on leaving New York the very next day.
Within a couple of days.
And
Within
I
a
told
couple
you,
of
no, you're not leaving.
And so Dick approaches me at the Roseland Tattoo Convention like, oh my goodness, you look amazing. You should be in my show. Because at the time, I basically just had my face and my hands tattooed. And he thought that was odd. Like usually you save those for last. And so I was like, oh, well, what show is this? And he's like, oh, the Coney Island Circus Sideshow. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And he's like, you'll learn. So I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm supposed to go back to Minnesota. And he was like, just come check out the show. Come down to Coney Island. and see for yourself. So we agreed that I'd come down the next day, but I came down 2 days later because I was just like, I don't know. So I went, and then yes, I decided to stay in New York.
The pay was so lucrative.
Okay. But yay. So yeah, that's how I ended up staying in
Question
New York.
number 3. In your career, working for the Coney Island Circus Sideshow as a performer, what's your favorite story?
Oh wow, there's a bunch of stories. Does it have to do with the sideshow or just anything in Coney Island?
Whatever you feel like. I was asking about a sideshow story,
A
but tell
sideshow?
any story. Your favorite story.
My favorite story. Oh my goodness. Well, the one that it has nothing to do with the Coney Island sideshow, but the diner next Gracie's Spoon.
Yes. Which used to be.
We used to love Nick's Greasy Spoon. They had like very recent, I think it was like, I don't know, $3 or $4 for like a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And there'd be eggshells in it sometimes. What can you do? But I guess apparently Nick, the proprietor of the Nick's Greasy Spoon, owed some money to some characters and wasn't able to pay it. So they
Rumors were he had a gambling habit.
Ah, the gambling. So the people he owed money to took his restaurant and then put him behind the counter, I guess, to show as a, I don't know. That's what they did. So then, of course, the people who then took over Nick's Greasy Spoon didn't want to pay electric bills. So apparently they had rigged all of the electricity from the diner into the building power line supply that would like light the lights. But instead, I guess they had hooked up all the electricity to Don's studio.
Don
Fury, who is like a
punk
record
rock
producer. Yeah. And so he gets his electric bill and he's like thousands of dollars, like this is wrong, this can't be. So he calls Con Ed or whatever electric company, and it's like, look, this bill is like way too much for like what I use, like look at my past bills. And they're like, no, it's right, we read the meter. And he's like, no, well, come read it again, because there's no way I use thousands of dollars of electricity. So they go, and they go in the basement, the electricity company people, and we're like, whoa, you could have fried an egg on the heat coming off from like this big, Sacco line into Don's electric meter. So, or like his power supply. So they the diner got in trouble. They shut the diner down. And so I guess the people who took over the diner, they had all these refrigerators and refrigeration units that they didn't want the food to go bad. So then they get gasoline-powered generators and have them inside the diner with the gates rolled down. So that Don Fury is like hallucinating from inhaling gas fumes one day. Like, what is going on? Why does it smell like gasoline? And he's like, ah. So then he calls 311. People come out and then they find the gas generators in the diner, and they like shut that down, and then we never saw Nick ever again. So we're hoping that he either escaped back to Greece and is okay, otherwise he might be sleeping with the fishes. We don't know.
Oh, but that doesn't happen in Coney Island anymore. No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Let's move on to question number 4.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Oh, ready.
What is at the top of your bucket list of things that you haven't done yet?
Wow, I have such a long bucket list. I want to go traveling throughout Europe. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Send in your money and contributions to Insectavora
Right. Yeah.
at
I'll give it
travel.com. Question number 5
Yeah.
of the 5 questions.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough question to answer. Are you ready?
Ready.
Are you all ready?
Are you ready?
Insectavora, will you eat fire for us?
Of course I will eat fire for you guys.
Okay, but you guys, she's gonna eat fire for us, but we have to go outside to do it. This video is over. If you want to see her eating fire, you have to switch over to the shorts. So I'm signing off right now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for people like Insectavora. Switch over to shorts and you'll see the rest of this evening's entertainment. Bye.